Hi, good afternoon. It's Jim Norris from Backstage Insider. Very happy today to have with me, coming from a warm place, Brad Merritt, who's with 5440. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, Jim. Thanks for asking.
Good. So, first off, I want to go back to the olden days in lower mainland BC.
Mhm.
Um, and I just wanted to ask about your family first. If you have a musical family or, what your early influences were.
Yeah. So there was always music in the house. My supposedly, and I have no recollection of this, but Don Messer's Jubilee used to
Oh
be
my
on, and
God.
and I would go and get two sticks in the backyard and pretend like I was playing the violin when Don Messer was doing his thing. But I certainly remember we moved to New Orleans when I was 2.5 years old, and
Wow.
my parents bought a very nice stereo and started buying albums and going to see Al Hirt and Pete Fountain and you know there's like Broadway musicals and all that kind of stuff. So and then my mother played piano, but she essentially gave up learning how to play piano when she was younger and just played by ear, and she could play anything. She would transpose to either C or G or F, keys with very few sharps or flats, and she would play the chords and the melody and the or accompaniment or whatever you want to do. And so music was always a part of my life, and of course, just like most kids, I took piano lessons and trumpet lessons and played in the school band, and then of course, you get interested in popular music, which was rock and roll when I was a kid, and so I gravitated towards that and picked up a guitar, and then eventually a bass guitar, and here we are talking today, Jim.
That's amazing. So, do you find that having played piano helped you to be a bass player? Because I think
Uh,
piano is a good instrument for anybody to learn.
yeah, so yeah, I think yeah, absolutely. It is just I think It's it really helps, certainly from a bass playing perspective. It's, kind of music theory. You know what notes are going to work or what notes you shouldn't stay on for too long, just from playing piano. I mean, I loved learning about music. That was my favorite part about piano lessons was learning the theory. And yeah, and you look at, all bass players dabble around on piano, and I think, piano players, like Brian Wilson, he played bass guitar in the band, right, when they were out on the road. But he so it just does this or a natural thing that way. But I really think that if you have kids, get them in piano lessons. I think it's a great base to start from.
For
No
sure.
pun intended.
So, how old were you when you first started playing bass?
So, well, essentially, he's trying to create, uh, um, you know, instant bands with your friends and jam around. And it's like there's always three guitar players, right? And three drummers and no bass player. So, at maybe 15 or 16, I probably rented one from Long and McQuaid,
Right.
maybe 16. And then by the time I'm 17, I'm hanging out with Neil, and he's a guitar player, and so if we're gonna do something, I should play bass. So I think the first one I bought, I was probably 18 when I bought my first bass guitar.
And what was that? What was that bass?
So if I remember correctly, it was a Hagstrom. This was a Swedish,
Yeah,
yeah. And then it went to Fender Precision, and then Fender Jazz after that, and that's pretty much all. I mean, I do have Precisions, but I'm a Fender Jazz player.
great. Excellent. So, after high school, you went to Berkeley Music, I understand.
Oh, no, Neil did.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. I got that mixed up then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
Yeah,
So,
he did a couple semesters there, and what he determined was that he was the 450th best guitar player out of 800.
I can
So,
imagine.
yeah,
Yeah.
but, thing is, I think it was a worthwhile experience for him. When you get to be 18 or 19 and you had your summer job and your parents are looking at you, you better do something. And, all of his brothers and sisters have undergraduate degrees. And so he goes, "Well, I wanna play music." So they sent him to Boston to go to Berkeley for a couple semesters.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, I was just thinking how much music education has changed since then. Because in those days, it's not like today where there's all the community colleges and various places where you can study music, and not just I took music at University of Toronto, and I used to call it music by dead guys, because that was totally classical, and there
Yeah,
was nothing like Humber College or any of these places that actually taught Musicians Institute. There's so many places now where up and coming players can study
yeah, yeah.
recording or the business or performance. So it's changed so much. So, how did 5440 come about? How did that come together?
Yeah, so, uh, I had moved back from the United States to Canada, to the Vancouver area, um, uh, as 13 years old, and, went to junior high school and high school there, and then Neil moved from Edmonton to, Delta, South Delta, in January of our grade 11 year, right? And he was a very, weird guy. Uh, I think all his friends in Edmonton were of the, arty variety. They're all in theater and art and music and that kind of stuff. And that really came through. That and the fact that he was the palest person I ever saw in my entire life. Uh, but, and so I said, "Oh, I want to get to know this guy because I'm attracted to that kind of thing, just general weirdness and creative people." So we started hanging out pretty early on, and he was very much into music as well as theater and that kind of thing. And so I ended up going over to his house, and we would kind of learn songs together. And our first sort of basis of music was pulling out Neil's older brother David's 45s. He wasn't living there at the time; he's a bit older, and so we'd listen to the Animals and the Kinks and Paul Revere and the Raiders and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones and the Ventures, and we would learn those songs, right? You know, uh, Bass parts and guitar parts, and just play together. So, and when high school ended, Neil went to Berkeley, and I went to the School of Punk Rock. And I said, "You got to come back. We got to start a band." He came back and started a short term band with his brother, and then kind of looked me up and said, "Hey, yeah, let's do something." And so, kind of in the fall of 1980, I lived on the plant side of the family business, which was kind of a fledgling business at the time, in a kind of a broken down house on site, which is where I lived. So I could make piles of noise. And he started coming over there, and he showed me what he had musically in terms of his own material. And then we wrote some songs together, and 6 weeks later, we were playing 3 nights at the Smiling Buddha Cabaret.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Great. And when was your first album recorded?
So, well, first we our first recording would have been probably summer of 1980. We contributed 4 songs to a compilation.
Right.
Um, what was it called? Things Are Still Coming Ashore is what the record was called. It was 4 songs by us, 4 songs by a band called Animal Slaves, and 4 songs by a band called Junko Run. And they had all played in various either punk rock or post punk groups, and they started these new groups, and we were a new group, and so we did that. And then in 1981, uh, I wonder if that was 81. I can't remember now, Jim. But I'll tell you, in '82 we did our first EP,
Right.
We had Mark H. Smith from a band called Three Swimmers. We were starting to, by '82, we were actually going down to San Francisco and playing shows, and Seattle a lot. Those two cities, almost as much as Vancouver, and had friends in both those cities, and so we were friendly with Mark, and he came up and produced this 6-song EP for us. And then we had that out summer of '82. And then '83 was it '80? Yeah. So '82 is when Ian quit the band, and then we got Daryl Newdorf on drums, who played in a band Kelowna. What was his band called? I can't remember now, but people can look it up.
For
Just
sure.
just just look up Daryl Newdorf on the internet. And Phil Comparelli, we got them, and so we became a 4-piece, and we just sort of did the songs that that we had written already in that format, and then we started to write songs together, and that became Set the Fire, which we recorded in '83 and released in January of 1984.
And those early records, were those on a label or were they just independent or how did that work?
Yeah, so, well, we called it a label. It was called Modamu, which stood for Modern Dance Music,
Right.
and, it was a Vancouver label that ran for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, maybe 6, I don't know. It was kind of something that you got into and then transitioned through, um, but, those 3 records will all say Modamu, uh, on them, Set the Fire, and then then we started to, by '84, we were going down to Los Angeles fairly regularly and attracting interest from major labels. Um, and already had a song from Set the Fire. It was on a Sub Pop compilation record, and Sub Pop was really starting to happen in Seattle. And so we had a lot of buzz about us, way more buzz in the United States than in Canada at the time. And so it would be 1985. We're still going down to Los Angeles and having all the record labels were taking a look at us, and then in fall of 1985, Warner Brothers said that they wanted to sign us. So, and then we signed to them in '86, and we'd already recorded what became the Green record, we call which has Baby Ran and I Go Blind on it, and we so we presented that to Warner Brothers. Say, this is what we want to do. We want to release this record, and they said, fine. We liked the record. We did a 3-record deal with those guys, and so, um, where am I going with this? Um,
You're at
yeah,
Warner
they
Bros.
said you want to remix it. So we got fine. So Dave Jordan remixed it. Neil was in the room at the time, and that became the Green record.
Excellent. So obviously since then you've recorded a lot of albums, had some good success. And I guess the other question is what's the secret, I guess, to your longevity? Because you guys have been around a long time.
Yeah. Well, Neil and I, we certainly had our differences to start with. And Ian, our original drummer, would complain vociferously because usually what happened is the when the playing would stop or the creative would stop, and Neil and I would argue for a half an hour about whatever. And I think, if you get through that and you sort of start to listen a little bit and understand the other person a little bit and keep your sense of humor, then you have a place that you can go on from, right? And there was, we're different people, but there's a mutual respect, and also, well, yeah, I would say, yeah, a huge respect. So that's a big part of it. So as the other members came into the band, that's kind of prerequisite. Had to treat everyone with respect, and they become part of your family, and you learn to love them for who they are. And as like once again, as long as you can maintain your sense of humor, there's a lot you can get through. And we didn't have too much success or to the point where there was forces driving us apart, but we had enough success to keep us together. So that's, I think, another factor as well. So some of this stuff is within your control, and then some of it's not, right? So, um, yeah, I get asked this question a lot, Jim, and uh, I got a pat answer. I'm trying to go beyond that for you.
Right.
But I think, a lot of it's about acceptance, right? Even musically, it's like every group that I've ever liked, whether it be the Beatles or the Kinks or whatever, they had musical limitations. The Who, Pete Townsend couldn't play a guitar solo when he was writing all these great songs. So, with my generation, John Entwistle played the solo, right? So, they got the new Roto Sound strings. So we all, and you have to sort of accept that, right? And I think part of it was Neil realized that that if he was going to work within this framework, that even if he had a vision, he had to understand that when he brought it to us, that it was going to take on a life of its own, and it was going to be beyond him. He could bring it back in again, or and so, like I said, a lot of it's about acceptance. Um, I think about bands that I like that have broken up. One that comes to mind is 10cc, right? Where you got Godley and Cream and goes, no, we want to go off and do our own thing. And the other two guys in the band say, that's great. Go off and do your own thing, but you don't have to quit our band, right? So, you know, because you have all these ideas, stay with us and you could, and they went, no. So who knows what all the forces are that keep bands together or break them up. But, um, yeah, we've been around as of this upcoming December 31st, 45 years. Um, and I think there's probably a few more years left in us.
I think so for sure. Now, what about with your career and how busy it's been, balancing that with your family life? How has that been?
Yeah, so it's funny, usually when I go away, my wife is pretty happy to see me go. Uh, but she's also pretty happy when I come home.
Right.
So, and then when you start having kids, going away is what they know. Dad goes away and then dad comes back.
Right.
But and the thing is, when I'm back, I'm really there, right? I'm walking the kids to school. I'm picking them up after school. I'm coaching them in basketball and baseball. So there's yeah, it's yeah, it works. It's I think that when musicians get into trouble is when they I mean, I think temporarily we can do anything. We can, as a family unit, a family can withstand a lot. But when things get out of balance for too long, that's when the trouble happens. And so you have to have a commitment um, to to come home and be present. And when you go away, to make the most of it in terms of your musical career.
Excellent. So, I noticed that you've been out doing some dates in the last little while, uh,
Yes.
last few months. How has that gone? I think you were on some dates with Foreigner.
Yeah, we did 12 with them.
How
Yeah.
how are they? They're one of my favorite acts ever, I think.
Yeah. So, uh, they were great. They treated us very, very well. Um, yeah, Jeff Perry is the promoter. Really, he he made us feel welcome. Talked to all the band guys, all nice fellows. Um, uh, it was a chance for us to get in front of 3,000 to 8,000 people at a time,
Right.
and not a lot of those people either would never have heard of us or knew us and forgot about us. Um, and it was really great to get in front of them and say, "Here, we're another rock band, and this is what we do." And I think we made a solid impression, and so it worked well for us. Once again, making the most of the time while you're away from home. It was a very, very positive thing.
Excellent. So in 2, 3 weeks, I guess it is, you have a new album coming out. So let us know how that came about, the songwriting and the production of it.
Yeah, so, the record before, Keep On Walking, we did with 4 different producers, um, and it was great because we were able to explore different things, and it was a bit of a, you know, logistics were what they were, and also the how the album holds together, the cohesiveness is, you know, it really came down to things like, artwork and mastering because they were all kind of disparate in the directions they were going. And I think Neil, what one thing Neil and I learned about ourselves is that we always tended to react to what we just previously did when the creative process gets going again. So, right off the bat, he goes, let's let's do something simple, direct, cohesive, all with kind of one person. Let's do something kind of riff rock, something a little bit more immediate. And so we got together. It started with just Neil and Matt and I at Matt's studio in Victoria, and then sort of started that. And then the 4 of us got together at Neil's studio. He lives in Gabriel Island. He's got his own studio. So, and we were there for a while, a couple different trips, and really kind of fleshed out mostly Neil's ideas. I would say 9 or 10 of them were came started with him, right? Um, and so that's how it started. We're really getting into the process weeds here, so I hope that your listeners appreciate that kind of stuff if they're
For
interested
sure.
in that. Um, so yeah, so then we talked about producers, and the usual suspects came up, and we loved them all, and we knew what kind of record we're going to make. Dave Genn, the guitar player, really lobbied for Warren Livesey, and he's got a very special relationship with Warren. He did a lot of records with Warren when he was with the Matt Good bands, and Warren, we knew that he was going to be a taskmaster. He especially works over me, the bass player, because Warren's the bass player, and the drums, bass and drums. He's like I say, he's got the special relationship with Dave, so they have an understanding and they work together very well. And then Neil, he doesn't touch at all. Whatever Neil comes in with is what it is. So I think that suits Neil really well. So that's kind of uh, how the whole thing started. And then we always had this idea of doing a destination record. We've been doing this for so long, and it's like rather than making it in Vancouver or Los Angeles, why don't we go somewhere else? And we looked all over the place, and but mostly in Europe. And Neil found this little studio in Porto, which is a town that Neil's intimately familiar with because he's gone there a few times to walk the Camino to Santiago, Spain from there, and he spent time there and loved the city. The studio was amazing. It's a real throwback. It's all analog gear. And they've had piles of old amplifiers and, good isolation, a nice big recording room. Um, I can't remember what the desk was. Um, but it was an MCI or it was some British analog mixing console and lots of digital outboard gear. And so it was a chance for us to get together and make a record like, the Rolling Stones would have, right? It's, uh, or Neil Young, right? But the kind of what we were thinking was we're thinking more like along the lines of the Kinks, right? It was more immediate, um, uh, kind of riff rock. No, it branched out from that, obviously, as these songs developed, and there's different kinds of songs on this record. But it is a very tight, cohesive rock record, and it's one that we're all extremely proud of. And I think it's going to do really well. We'll see what happens.
That's good. So it's available for, I think I remember CD and vinyl, and then obviously downloads and streaming and all the rest of it.
Yes. So there's 4 songs available, download, and streaming. I don't know about download, but streaming, right now, and then the whole record gets released on January 23rd.
Excellent. And is that one on a record label as well?
That's just us.
Oh,
Which
great.
we call ourselves the, Smilin' Buddha Enjoyment Complex.
Oh, wow. That's a great one to put on a business card.
Yeah, SBEC.
Excellent. And what about future tour dates? When are those coming up and where?
Yeah, so we played 49 shows in 2025.
Right,
So we're taking a little bit of a break. But we are starting to put together our calendar now. I missed the last band meeting as I'm not in the country, but more dates are coming on stream all the time. I think if you check the website now, it'll say nothing,
right.
but I would give it, about the time that the record comes out on January 23rd. There'll be probably 10 or 12 dates, and then there'll be more to come after that.
Excellent. And what geographical area will those be in?
So, uh, almost all Canada.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, we do dip into the United States, but there's a movement to get us back to Portugal to play on this record. So there's some interest. So I mean, we'll see what happens beyond Canada, but it's almost all Canada.
Great. Excellent. So, thanks, Brad. It's been great talking to you. And when we post the interview, we'll put your website on there as well, so that people can keep up with what you're doing and where you're going. And
No,
all the best with your holiday and warm weather.
yeah, no, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.